Hello, this is an estate and gift tax online module. This is 5B. We're talking about the gross estate, and in this video we'll talk about section 2034, marital interests, and I'm Professor Donna Byrne. So, just to review, we know that transfers that take place at death are subject to the estate tax. And under Section 2033, the gross estate includes the value of all property owned by the decedent, no matter what kind of interest. Section 23 basically covers the probate estate, tenancy in common, remainder interests, a term of years, fee title, anything owned by the decedent. But it doesn't cover any non-probate transfers. Now we'll look at Section 2034 and consider the effect of inchoate marital rights in property. This would be the elective share mostly these days. It used to be dower and courtesy. And by the end of this, you should be able to explain what's included in the gross estate when there is community property and what is included in the gross estate when the married person dies owning property rights. Okay, so remember the elective share, or in earlier law, the dower and courtesy interests. This is the spouse's right to inherit part of spouse's estate. So a widow or widower's right to inherit part of deceased spouse's estate. That means it's kind of like an interest in property, but it's an inchoate interest. It's not really complete, hasn't really become anything real until spouse dies, because during life spouse could give it all away, spouse could sell it all, spouse could use it up, and I have no rights whatsoever. But when my spouse dies, we include all of that spouse's property in the gross estate, and then I have a right to inherit something. That's what these marital rights are. But the important part for us is that when my spouse dies, everything my spouse owned is included in spouse's estate. That's Section 2033. There's nothing new yet. Section 2034 is really not necessary. It just tells us, okay, now if you were thinking that maybe these spousal rights are kind of like, oh, I don't know, joint tenancy or something, they're not, right? This is just a right to inherit. It's not an ownership right. And so Section 2034 says all of that you're going to inherit, that was still in the estate, right? It hasn't changed 2033 at all. Here's the text. The value of the gross estate shall include the value of all property to the extent of any interest therein of the surviving spouse existing at the time of the decedent's death as dower or courtesy, or by virtue of a statute creating an estate in lieu of dower or courtesy. That's the elective share. So can you see that it's not adding anything? The value of the gross estate already included all of this. The statute is just saying we didn't carve those out. Okay. Now, let's compare this to community property. In a community property state, spouses can own property separately or they can own property communally, and typically anything that arises during the marriage is community property. Community property is essentially the same as being tenants in common. Each spouse owns an undivided half interest, but there's no right of survivorship. So it's not like a joint tenancy. I can leave my half to anybody I want. I could sell my half. When my spouse dies, I may inherit that other half, but I already own my half. So this is a way of protecting my interests, but this actually gives me a property right during my spouse's lifetime, right? Rather than a right to inherit later. Section 2034 has absolutely no effect on community property. This does not change. Okay, this slide is wrong. I'm going on to the next one. This is the sample problem in your casebook. And this slide has the wrong value for the investment real estate. That should be 6 million, not 600,000. It's correct in the next slide. Here it is. Okay, so Willa is married to, or Willa is married to Harold, and they have 4 adult children. Willa owns outright a house, some tangible personal property, stock, investment real estate, and a bank account. What is the value of Willa's gross estate if she leaves it all to Harold? Okay, first of all, it doesn't matter who she leaves it to. Her gross estate is just about what property she owns at death. And it's the sum of all of that, $12 million. That's the gross estate. It's before deductions. Now, what is my footnote here? The taxable estate will be different because the taxable estate will have the marital deduction, and that will make the taxable estate 0. But the gross estate is all of that $12 million. Now, what is the value of Willa's gross estate if she leaves it half to Harold and half to her children? It's like a trick question, right? Because it's still $12 million. The gross estate is the value of everything that Willa owned at death. Now, there is a deduction for transfers to her spouse, and that means that the half that goes to Harold will be deductible, and so the taxable estate will be $6 million. But the gross estate still includes everything. Okay, what is the value of Willa's gross estate if she leaves it all to her children, but Harold elects against the will under state law? He gets half. So here's the elective share in action, right? If Harold chooses to take that, it doesn't matter. The gross estate is still $12 million. It's just the value of everything that she owned. And after we distribute property, we'll deduct the half that went to Harold. But Section 2034 just tells us, just because Harold's going to get something under that elective share, that doesn't make any difference. The gross estate is still everything that Willa owned. Okay, stolen art. We must be done. Thanks for watching.